like to call Property Management Committee to order. First order of business, call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd? Here. Commissioner Davidson?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson? Commissioner Phillips?
Present.
Commissioner Irvin?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Present.
Chairman McAdoo?
Here.
Thank y'all.
Next on the agenda, approval of minutes, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have reviewed the minutes of our last meeting and found them in order and moved to approve as mailed out.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Any public comments? Yes, sir. Okay. Next on the agenda, Milton Lease, Chief Larry Farley.
Chairman. I'm here tonight. Back when Las Casas was a volunteer fire department, Mr. Harris Hooper donated some property in Milton for a second station out there, which puts Milton within the 5 miles of a fire station. What way it was written in the deed is they donated that land to the volunteer fire department. When the volunteer fire department ceased to exist, that property went back to the homeowner. After that happened, I approached Ms. Hooper and asked her, told her we'd like to reestablish that station and put a truck out there and hopefully have a few volunteers that will respond that truck. And so I think her and our county attorney got together and created a lease. And basically, that lease would, it's at 11381 Las Casas Pike, and the terms of the lease is that I think for whether it be 10 or 20 years, it'd be $10 for that period of time, plus that we pay the rent on, the taxes on that property. And looking at the tax rate, I believe this last year it would have been $539 for property tax. So basically it doesn't have any incurrence cost on her. Of course, we'd be responsible for maintaining the building, making sure the heat and air was working properly, and just mainly what that would do is, because that station went away, the residents of Milton, their insurance would probably go from $1,200 to $3,600 a year. And so I'd like to keep that from happening by placing this station there. And so I'm asking for your permission to agree with this lease.
Okay, do I have any questions on the lease?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
I wasn't clear. Why are we doing this? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand.
Back in Las Casas, we built a brand new fire station out there that's manned. Out toward Milton, with the cemeteries, that right there is about the 5 mile mark. So when Las Casas Volunteer Fire Department shut down, the property where that second station was at went back to the people who donated it. So I've reapproached them to get a lease where we can put a truck back out there, hopefully have a couple of volunteers out there in that area respond to that truck if there is a call for it, and which would help the insurance rates from those people in that community from tripping.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin? Yes. Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next, Forensic Center, Mayor Carr.
Mr. Chairman, this is just going to be a moment because I'm, as the committee, some of the committee members already know, Mr. Hennessy, Bart Klein, Mr. Sparks, Captain Sparks, and Denise Martin will be making the presentation shortly. There was, and I'm here to correct or make sure that we're factually correct as we move forward in consideration of this project. Monday night, a statement was made by a fellow commissioner regarding the fact that the revenues that potentially would be received from the business of the Forensic Center to other counties constituted an enterprise. It does not. So for the record, the county, a number of departments within the county receive revenue to offset the cost associated with operating that department. Register of Deeds, the two clerks' office, county court clerk and the county clerk, planning, engineering, juvenile detention center. So we have a number of departments that receive income to help offset the operation of those departments. And so any proposal tonight or in subsequent weeks that refers to future revenues is within the same context as that the county is already existing and offsetting those expenses. I just wanted to make that very clear. This is not an enterprise. This is conducting business just like we have with regard to other departments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be glad to turn it over to Mr. Hennessy for the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hennessy?
Fortunately for some of you, you've heard this already, but Commissioners, we're here tonight to talk about the need for a forensic center. I'm standing before you on behalf of the County Mayor's Office, but don't think of this project as a project of the Mayor's Office. It is much larger than that. In fact, there have been some in this county who have been working on trying to get a forensic center for over 15 years. In addition, the state of Tennessee Department of Health has identified the need. I'm sure you all saw that in the paperwork, the report that was given to you by Ms. Martin at the last County Commission meeting. All Rutherford County public service departments support the Forensic Center, as well as different municipalities within the county. Also, several counties outside of Rutherford support these efforts. Chairman, with your approval, I will ask Denise Martin and Brian Gaither to come up. These two people live with the burdens of not having a forensic center in Rutherford County every single day and can provide detail about how that affects their department. After they speak, Bart Klein with KSA will come up and provide a brief PowerPoint presentation and explain the actual building design. Then we will have Captain Todd Sparks of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department come up and provide some of his personal experiences as a captain over the detectives divisions. Commissioners, I believe, at least for a couple of you, that tonight's presentation will provide a little more information than what you have already previously heard. Following that, I will have a few closing remarks. Denise?
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. As our Chief of Staff did mention, I appreciate the patience of those that have heard this before. I know that many of you have probably watched the other committee meetings, so even if you weren't here in person, you probably know the contents. But I do think it's important that we share the exact same information with all the committees so that we can hopefully garner your support. So I just wanted to, before I start tonight, go over my credentials with you so that you understand why I can speak to this topic. I started in this field in 1998, over 25 years ago. I attained my bachelor's degree with a major in psychology and minors in criminology and criminal justice at MTSU, which is where I first studied forensics and where I first became involved in the work at the Middle Tennessee Forensics Center, initially as a forensic anthropology student. I started work at the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center in the early 2000s, first as a forensic technician and then as a medical legal death investigator. I worked my way up to Director of Technical Services, a position that I held for several years, overseeing the Forensic Tech Department as well as autopsy operations. And next was promoted to Director of both the Technical Services and Investigations Division, a position I held for over 10 years. During that time, I attained my Master of Criminal Justice graduate degree from MTSU, graduating in 2011. I then attended law school while working full-time and attained my JD in 2015 and passed the bar that same year. I am admitted to practice in both Tennessee state and federal district courts. I left the Middle Tennessee Forensic Center in 2016 to practice law full-time as a civil litigation attorney with a focus on medical and healthcare cases. And then in 2018, I started work for the Office of the State Chief Medical Examiner as a state medical legal death investigator, where I was involved in training of county medical examiners and their investigators, as well as other interests of the state. And in March 2020, I started or accepted a part-time position here in Rutherford County as a death investigator instructor, a part-time position within EMS, with the aim, which was successful, in bringing the EMS supervisors up to state and national standards for death investigation. This part-time position quickly evolved into the need for a full-time position, that of Supervisor of Death Investigations, the position I currently hold now. But this was the time when I first learned that Rutherford County does not even have its own morgue, and still does not to this day. I have successfully applied for a grant to convert part of the Salem EMS station into a formal Rutherford County Medical Examiner's office with a fully equipped post-mortem external, meaning non-autopsy examination room. And then I later obtained a second grant to hire two experienced and credentialed full-time medical legal death investigators, which was a first for Rutherford County. I'm board certified through the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators, and I'm also a medical legal death investigator within the Disaster Mortuary Operations Response Team, or DMORT, Region 4, as an intermittent federal employee within the National Disaster Medical System. As I said before, I'm not saying that all to brag. I don't like tooting my own horn, but I do want you to have a comfort level that I have a comprehensive experience in this field, running a forensic center, and the statutory requirements for such. I have watched this county grow from a rural county to the fourth largest county by population, which is now a mainly urban county which experiences real metro issues. Our county borders Metro Nashville-Davidson County, so it should be no surprise that, unfortunately, violent crime, drugs, and other such concerns inevitably spill over into our county. As our population grows, so unfortunately do the number of deaths. In turn, so do the number of autopsies needed and medical legal death investigations. Our former EMS director and then county coroner, Carl Hudgens, recognized the need to plan for this forensic center over 15 years ago. I hope that you have all now taken the opportunity to read and digest the contents of the Tennessee Department of Health contracted for feasibility study that was handed out at the most recent commission meeting. This study was published and performed by an independent, unbiased, neutral third-party panel of experts. Having read the study, you should have no doubt that we are not alone in our firm belief that a forensic center should be located and operational in Rutherford County. Page 3 states that, and I quote, "All authority rests at the county level for medical legal death investigations in the state of Tennessee," end quote. It is a county responsibility to ensure that our deaths are being investigated appropriately and thoroughly, and that forensic autopsies are being appropriately and accurately performed. The report indicated and documented concerns relating to the capacity of the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, delays in examination, leading to potential for deterioration of the body and evidence degradation, concerns about high daily caseload, limited storage, and inability to handle a mass fatality incident. As highlighted on page 26, I quote, "The Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center projected to serve a population of nearly, now over, 3.7 million, falls significantly below SWIG MDI recommendations. The current facility, sized at 20,000 square foot, is far below the recommended 72,682 square foot. It lacks adequate autopsy room space, body storage capacity, and autopsy stations," end quote. These issues, along with documented concern for insufficient staffing of the facility, the assessment team concluded that, I quote, "These deficiencies pose a critical vulnerability in the provision of autopsy services in the Middle Tennessee region," end quote. For reference, SWIG MDI stands for the Scientific Working Group for the Medical Legal Death Investigation within NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. The respected research paper referenced to and utilized in the research and findings of that feasibility study was authored and approved by past and present presidents of the National Association of Medical Examiners, as well as other members, officers, and leadership of NAME, ABMDI, and IACME, which are all accrediting bodies of forensic facilities and their staff. The study goes on to state on page 19 that notably among the 5 most populous counties, Rutherford County stands apart as the sole jurisdiction that lacks its own forensic center, end quote. And the study concluded on page 29, quote, the assessment team strongly believes that Tennessee urgently requires at least one additional regional forensic center to alleviate the strain faced by the Middle Tennessee RFC. Ideally, this facility would be situated in Rutherford County, end quote. Many different agencies and departments within our county and its municipalities are impacted by and or involved in death investigations and forensics. In fact, they have vocalized support for the need and necessity of a Rutherford County Forensic Center, and in fact, the Rutherford County Forensic Center is supported by the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, Rutherford County EMS, the Rutherford County Fire Marshal's Office within County Fire and Rescue, the Murfreesboro Police Department, Rutherford County Emergency Management, and the Smyrna Police Department. The county and municipal agencies have stressed current challenges affecting productivity, travel time to and from Nashville, burdening the overtime budgets, the need to have become a priority instead of jostling for position amongst 63 counties, and issues with communication that is detrimental to case investigations, to name but a few. Issues that would resolve with a Rutherford County facility. The Rutherford County Forensic Center would prioritize our Rutherford County cases. Each regional forensic center in Tennessee also serves as the medical examiner's office for the jurisdiction or county in which it's located. So each regional forensic center is therefore expected to prioritize its own county's autopsies and investigations. Unfortunately for Rutherford County and 2/3 of the state, we do not currently have that priority. We've received written support from many other county medical examiners at Tennessee Regional Forensic Center, the District Attorney's Office, hospitals, and institutes of higher education. Having a Rutherford County Forensic Center would immediately unburden our incredibly busy EMS service and its shift supervisors of performing work that is outside of its emergency medicine mission, that of saving lives and provision of emergency medical care. In fact, I'll ask our EMS Director, Brian Gaither, to elaborate on that piece, please.
Currently, our EMS supervisors spend a significant amount of time conducting death investigations due to lack of 24-hour medical examiner investigator coverage. While this responsibility is part of their job description, it is not their primary role, nor is it where their training and focus should be. Our supervisors are first and foremost EMS providers dedicated to saving lives and providing emergency medical care. When they're tied up investigating deaths, often for hours, it not only pulls them away from their primary duties, but also adds unnecessary stress and contributes to burnout and potential PTSD. Additionally, because death investigations are not their main responsibility, there's a risk that these cases may not receive the same level of thoroughness that a full-time trained investigator would provide. This is not a reflection on our supervisor's dedication, but rather an indication that we need a more specialized approach. A forensic center in Rutherford County would alleviate this burden, ensuring that death investigations are handled by experts while allowing our EMS providers to focus on what they do best, caring for the living. It would also improve the quality and efficiency of forensic work in our county, benefiting law enforcement, public health, and families affected by these tragedies. I strongly urge you to support a forensic center to provide the professional, round-the-clock investigative resources our county needs.
I will conclude with a discussion on costs. There are real and hidden costs involved. Currently, we're expending almost $1 million on vendor autopsy service, including transportation, out of the county. This number will continue to increase, not only due to our population growth, but also on fee increases from the for-profit company who operates the Middle Tennessee Forensic Center in Nashville, and due to transportation cost increases. As you should recall, we have had 4 significant fee increases within 4 years to the autopsy fees, with little notice and mid-fiscal year each time. We are anticipating another one soon based on historical regularity. As a reminder, the Middle Tennessee Regional Forensic Center currently charges us $2,500 per autopsy, compared to $1,900 charged by Knox County RFC. The cost of the required county level medical examiner's office is approximately $500,000 when we are fully staffed. The Rutherford County RFC would combine those 2 services, that of autopsy service and our medical examiner's office, effectively absorbing the ME office and moving the staff, offices, and equipment into the Regional Forensic Center. The only additional staff that would be needed at first would be a forensic pathologist, 2 forensic techs, and an admin assistant. By combining these 2 services in-house, we should anticipate a significant cost savings over what is currently being spent to send our autopsies out of the county. Other cost reimbursement would be available to us from the state, including $150 per autopsy, $1,250 per infant autopsy, and a toxicology reimbursement share, among other things. We would immediately see this annual cost savings of hundreds of thousands of dollars based on additional sources of revenue just mentioned and the cost savings from running our own department. If the county then chose to offer service to other counties, while more staff would be added, of course, additional cost reimbursement from the autopsy fee service could be realized, offsetting significant operational costs. These are just the surface level costs, however. But the hidden costs we are currently incurring should not be ignored. Overtime incurred by law enforcement and other agency investigators who currently have to travel through heavy traffic to and from Nashville to the Middle Tennessee Forensic Center. Autopsy scheduling issues caused by Nashville's high daily caseload and our lower priority level, causing law enforcement investigators to sometimes miss the actual examination process or having to wait sometimes all day for the exam to take place. Stilted communication regarding case findings and progress, which is a real cost to our investigations and to our families, both as relates to peace of mind and closure of their estates. The cost passed on to families due to the local funeral homes having to travel to North Nashville and transport the decedent's remains back to our county for final arrangements. And the cost to legal next of kin who are being charged for autopsy, investigative, and toxicology reports by the Middle Tennessee RFC. The hidden cost to EMS of the hours its supervisors are having to dedicate to death investigation instead of emergency medicine. The cost to our judicial system when we consider the quality and timeliness of reporting. Those cost savings are significant. The Rutherford County Regional Forensic Center would directly benefit the budget and be fiscally responsible. I will end with a quote from the original white paper, drafted almost 10 years ago now, which continues to be pertinent today. A Rutherford County Regional Forensic Center would provide Rutherford and surrounding counties with a long-term, sustainable, cost-effective means of providing medical legal autopsy service for a rapidly growing population. Thank you.
This time we would call up Bart Klein with KSA to come up and give us a brief PowerPoint presentation on the actual design of the Forensic Center building.
Hello, my name is Bart Klein with Klein & Swinney Associates. So first, a little bit about the design team. Myself, Tyrone Bunyan, and Ron Constantino, who you've met yesterday, and they're having the day off and one is sick. We are the architects. But we're also teamed up with MWL. MWL is McLaren Wilson Lowry. They're specialized in medical cadaver labs. Our firms have worked together for over 15 years. Our last project was TBI headquarters in Nashville. Our engineers are Phoenix, that does mechanical, plumbing, and electric. They do labs as well. TRC, construction services and structural engineering. And then SEC is providing landscape and civil. And IS engineering is providing fire protection. And then Dewberry is providing access control, AV, and systems design. As we look at the proposed site, the project is located adjacent to the convenience center and in between the convenience and old emissions facility. The design of the site was to look at how we develop this block in a way that provides services in the future to this part of the county. The forensic facility in blue is the project that we're talking about today, but also in the white boxes is the future office building for Rutherford, which is planned right, as well as the EMS building, and down below that is the county's clerk's office. The forensics facility has a front street off of I Street with a dedicated road off of I that takes you to the building with public entry at the front door, and then as you proceed to the back is the rear entry for staff and also for delivery of the deceased. The floor plan is quite simple. It is form follows function. In orange is the lab space and the support space for the lab. In blue is the admin space. To the south of that, in this, I think it's brownish color, is the Sally Port and drop-off. That is where the deceased is brought in, and it's where they leave. And then both sides, you see the white boxes. The design of the facility is to expand over time. So this is a 50-year building that we've designed, and we've designed an ability to expand. Materials for the building are very hardy: brick veneer, load-bearing CMU structure, steel frame roof structure, basically all the things that a county building needs to be in terms to last. What this image shows is the future expansion. Ghosted in to the right shows that future lab extension. The building is modern in design. It's very simple. Not many moves, not many frills, but really just gets the job done, provides itself a presence on the street. As we look at some of the images, top left-hand corner, this is an image of an exterior space where the staff would go and have lunch, get some bereavement. Image number 3 is the front entry where the public would enter. And image number 4 is the Sally Port. Image number 5 shows an overall view of the front of the building. And I'm moving a little fast because some of you have heard this, so if you got questions, just stop me. As we talk about overall cost, this is a CM at risk project. We are working on a GMP right now with the contractor. That should actually be finalized by the 10th. We have gone back and forth to keep this thing in budget to provide the scope that we needed. There will be a not to exceed cost of $15 million on this project. As you see me come back to the next meeting, you may see more information on these numbers, but so far it's been a good experience, a great project, a good team. Denise knows what she's talking about. I've learned a lot. It's been fun. Any questions about the building? Yes, sir.
What's the approximate time frame for construction?
We should be starting construction in about 60 days, and it'll be an 18-month construction time frame. Currently, we're going through our TDEC approval process for permits. We've gone to the city of Smyrna, and we're finalizing the GMP by next week. We'll be waiting on some permits, and Matt Taylor is kind of getting all that stuff together on TDEC. Any other questions? Thank you.
Next Next, we would have Captain Todd Sparks come up. He's going to talk about some of the personal experiences that he's had as a captain over the Detectives Division of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Department.
Good evening again. As you said, I'm Todd Sparks. I'm a captain with the Sheriff's Department, Criminal Investigations Division. In my 30th year at the Sheriff's Office, 27th year in investigations. So my experience I bring to you tonight is working 200 plus death investigations over the last 27 years, having that experience. So just wanted to speak to you kind of on behalf of law enforcement right now and some of the frustrations that we have had for many years in our current situation, having to go to Nashville for the Forensic Center. Probably one of the biggest frustrations that we have is communication, or the lack thereof. There are often times that we have miscommunications with the Forensic Center about what time autopsies are to be scheduled. So we have investigators that are out working for multiple hours on a death investigation scene. Then they have to drive to Northeast Nashville, only to find out either that the autopsy has already been conducted or it's been rescheduled for several hours down the road. Can't leave that situation and come back to Murfreesboro and then drive back again, so wind up having to take lots of hours out of the equation that we could be working on those investigations. And again, oftentimes we've already missed that autopsy because of the lack of communication. There have been several times where we've actually had to drive back to recover evidence that wasn't given to us at the time and literally have to drive it across the street to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Crime Lab. So some of those things are very frustrating. Travel time, of course, we all know what it's like traveling to and from Nashville. Depending on what time of the day it is, it can be a real pain, and I can't imagine what it would be like for any of the law enforcement agencies here should the Forensic Center decide to no longer take us as clients there. Now we got to drive to East Tennessee. So that's a whole nother ball of wax. Post-procedure communication is very problematic in that we don't have the opportunity to speak with those investigators that work at Forensic Medical to try to get preliminary information. Oftentimes we just don't get phone calls returned to us, or we can't speak with anyone. That can be very problematic in investigations where we have some unknown circumstances. As I've spoken before, not all death investigations are the same. There are often times when there are no obvious signs of death. We don't know exactly what's happened. We're not dealing with a gunshot wound or something to that effect. We have to rely upon information from the medical examiner's office at that point. Some of the more recent cases that stand out in this last year, at least 2 cases where we had young adults that died for no obvious reasons, no foul play necessarily suspected, only to find out 5 months later and 4 months later on those 2 cases that they were overdose deaths, which we do investigate as homicides and pursue prosecution for second-degree murder. So we're way behind the curve on those investigations. One of the biggest ones that stands out for us last year was a 3-month-old infant that died inside of a residence. No obvious signs, there was no visible trauma to the child, only to find out 4 months later that that child died from methamphetamine toxicity, which doesn't happen to a 3-month-old. So that's a homicide investigation that we're now 4 months behind the curve on. Only later to find out that the toxicology report had been available to us just 2 weeks after we had began to work that case, but that information was never provided to us from Forensic Medical. So those are some significant frustrations for us. As Director Martin spoke about, this is not a new concept. We've been talking about this for a very long time. To quote Commissioner Reed, we've kicked that can a long time, and we're about to kick it off a cliff, I think. There are tremendous opportunities, not only for law enforcement, but for medical students, for young up-and-coming college students, anthropology students, forensic students. There are so many opportunities here for training, for education. From a law enforcement standpoint, it makes us better. It gives us the opportunity to be better at our jobs. It gives us the opportunity to make sure that our investigations are more thoroughly conducted, they're more efficient, and it's better for the families, because I can't imagine having a 3-month-old in my family that had passed away, and for 4 months I had to wait to only find out that that child had been murdered, and find out that that investigation is that far behind the curve. But those are real-life situations right here in Rutherford County. So, on behalf of law enforcement in Rutherford County, not just the Sheriff's Office, Sheriff's Office 100% supports this project. We have for a long time. But law enforcement in this community, I speak on behalf of my counterpart investigations at Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Laverne, MTSU, we've spoken to them as well. We are 100% behind this project, have been from the beginning. And we ask you to help us be better at our jobs. So thanks for your time.
For those of you that are hearing this information tonight for the first time, I hope you found it informative. There's one final piece to this puzzle, and that is that we can accomplish everything you've heard here tonight without the need of raising taxes or borrowing money. Over the last 2 years, Ted Beatty, Michael Smith, and Mayor Carr have worked diligently to increase the fund balance. This increase in the fund balance is what has provided us with one-time money necessary to pay for this project, while still maintaining our AAA bond rating. As this is one-time money, the mayor's office believes that it is best to use these funds on projects that will actually reduce the annual budget. And that is exactly what we believe that this project will do in a significant way. Do you have any questions?
Commissioner Irvin?
Yeah, I have a few, and I'll have more as when this gets to budget, assuming it gets to budget on the financial side. Have you talked with the Tennessee Department of Health about the report?
I have not. I don't know if Denise has.
Okay, because what I'm wondering is, now that the state is on board with it, apparently, I'm wondering if the state would be willing to help us out. So a few follow-on questions would be, have you all talked, okay, it doesn't sound like we've talked with Department of Health with one exception. Has anybody talked with the state legislative delegation? Has anybody talked with them about this year's budget is probably a little late, or I know it's late, but what about next year's budget, given the report, given the identification of Rutherford County? I'm just trying to find out, has anybody talked with the state legislative delegation?
I think they have. I'm going to call Mayor Carr up here. I think he can answer that question because he's been following it from day one.
It's not that hard. I mean, I'm sorry.
Boy, they just kind of bailed, didn't they, Jeff? The answer to your question is yes, yes, and yes. So if you'll give me a few moments, let me back up and kind of give you a history of what happened. 2 years ago, we became aware that through the federal government, the state of Tennessee was handing out, I believe, $3.3 billion in grant money that was related to COVID on the backside. And so when we, the county, found out about that opportunity, we presented a proposal to what's called the FSAG committee. That was the committee appointed by Governor Lee to distribute those federal funds, because the state was the conduit for the distribution of those funds. Denise, help me, it's been almost 2 years, has it not, that we first applied for those FSAG funds? I think that's right. And we were encouraged to do so by the Lee administration, and I'm going to name names, Commissioner Irvin, because specifically we were asked by the senior advisor to Governor Lee, Tony Nikajad to do just that. As a matter of fact, we followed his guidance, and the managed expectation through multiple presentations to the FSAG committee through May of 2023 was that the county would receive anywhere between 8 and 16 million in FSAG money for this facility. Now, at that time, this facility was not just a regional forensics facility, but it was also a teaching facility, and it was also related to Meharry. So it was about twice the size as what we're proposing today. So it was about, I think, 25 million as opposed to 15. Is that not right, Denise? My memory may fail me. So, but in any event, so at the last minute, the senior advisor for Governor Lee left the country. And when he came back, he was a lobbyist for Stones River Group. Stones River Group works for Forensic Medical as their lobbyist. And so we literally were left at the altar, literally. I do not know the exact politics of what happened, but I can tell you it was politics. We did reach out to our delegation subsequent to that last year to try to get state funding, and we were told that the Lee administration was not receptive to that inquiry. And so for 2 years, we have sought FSAG money, federal grant money. Subsequent to that, we sought state funding money, matching money, knowing full well that Rutherford County, if Rutherford County put up 10 million, would the state put up 5 million? And every door was closed, gentlemen and ladies. I'm just telling you. So for over 2 years, we've been involved in trying to get some type of matching funds for the construction of this facility, either through the federal FSAG money or through in the state budget. And it just hasn't worked out. And I have my own reasons for believing that, but that is, yes, so we did.
So the report came out. Since the report came out, y'all have talked with, I mean, the chairman of the health committee, Maine Health up there is, you know, a Rutherford County representative.
That's true.
And so I was just curious if you've reached out to him or to others.
The answer is yes.
And what was the response, I guess, because I'm trying to get a sense for the report's out. That would seem, I understand what you're saying about politics being involved before, but what I'm trying to figure out is, now that the report's out, does it make a difference in the tone? Maybe the Tennessee Department of Health could help us out, you know, notwithstanding the lobbyists. Maybe there's some other way to fund this so that we didn't have to, as Rutherford County, basically pay $15 million plus operating costs for a forensic center.
Correct. So when the report came out in April 2024, Health Commissioner Alvarado and I had 2 different lunch meetings to discuss the results of this report, the impact to Rutherford County on the report, and to what extent, if any, this report provided leverage, financial leverage, to the county from the state budget to help us build this facility. It provided none. It provided no financial leverage to the county from the state to facilitate the construction of this project. Even though the report says, and I quote, a 6th forensic center is urgently needed and would be ideally located in Rutherford County. That is in the report. And I want to remind the committee, this is a report that was not generated by the Tennessee Department of Health, but was commissioned to a third party to be conducted.
Right. It would seem to add weight to it.
I'm sorry?
The report would seem to add weight to the request.
Yes, sir.
What
it
I'm
does.
trying to figure out is, if this year is too late, is money potentially available next year from the state, given the report, given additional discussions perhaps with the legislative delegation? Might it be possible to fund all or a portion of it along the lines of what you've been recommending, but I'm trying to figure out, is there that big a rush? I'm sure in some there would be an emphasis on it being a rush, but I'm trying to get a sense for if we wait a year, for example, try to work with them in the next budget cycle. I'm kind of curious why it's not in. If we knew about it in April 2024, that would have been a pretty good chance for this budget cycle.
That's correct.
So I'm not sure what the rationale was. I just don't understand at this point the rationale for there not being at least some help at the state level.
I think that's an excellent question, Commissioner Irvin. I really do. And it's the $64,000 question that I have struggled with for 2 years, is why did we not receive the FSAG money, the federal money? Subsequent to that, why didn't we receive some type of matching fund from the Tennessee? And the only thing I can tell you is that the lobbying group for a forensic center in Nashville is a very strong and influential group, and it's in their financial interest to take care of their client, Forensic Medical. That is the reality of the situation. I don't anticipate that because this report came out approximately April 2024, a little less than a year ago, you're right. We should have had an opportunity to get in the 2025-2026 budget cycle. But we were told there was no opportunity for $5 million, which is what we were asking for, to match our 10. Honestly, I don't anticipate anything will change next year. There is not a rush to do this, but the timing for doing this is now. The need is very urgent, as indicated in the report. Rutherford County is in the unique position, because of the efforts of Michael Smith and Ted Beatty, to pay for this ourselves. And my opinion, Commissioner Irvin, is that we have a responsibility to do that. If funding from the state should come next year, we would gladly receive it, because we will be in the middle of the construction of this project if this committee deems it necessary. So we're not shutting the door. And indeed, I think there will be opportunities, and Denise has talked about this, from an operational side, there will be tremendous grant opportunities through the federal and the state government that we would be applying for, that we currently don't have the opportunity to apply for, to offset operational costs. So we're not giving up on the grants. I'm not willing to count on them after the last 2 years' experience.
Fair enough. I'm trying to understand also, and we've talked about this before last time, I believe, might have been last time you were up here. Have there been any commitments from any other counties to help? I mean, commitments, dollars. We'll send so many autopsies. We'll commit so much dollars, either on the fund balance side or on the operating side?
I haven't got a written commitment. I want to be very exact here. I do not want to mislead anybody. We do not have any written commitments from any county. However, I have spoken to at least a dozen different county mayors who are extremely interested in the opportunity about having another alternative other than Nashville to take their autopsies, given the fact that we've got a quality control issue in Nashville. So while that's not a commitment, I would say it's as close to a commitment without getting a commitment as that I'm going to get. So, and moreover, in the report, I believe it lists 20 different counties that would be available, that the state would try to make available to Rutherford County if we decided to do this, because again, Rutherford County is the priority. That is the priority. Any capacity we have beyond that would be available to those surrounding counties to the south and to the east.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, y'all have done an excellent job on your report. Y'all are
Yeah, they did a great job.
To be commended.
This is the first time I've been up here, and I'm really disappointed that I had to come up.
So, okay, a few other questions. Do you have any kind of commitment from like MTSU or Meharry or Anybody along those lines?
No, sir, we don't. And the reason we do not, another good question is we had to scale back because we were very cost conscious about maintaining what the core vision, what the core mission statement for this forensic center was. And that was to meet the immediate forensic needs of Rutherford County, and then potentially, when with capacity available, meet the needs outside the county. Which is why we have, and thank you, Bart, for that, we have put in there expansion on the administrative side and on the forensic side, because if there's an opportunity to turn this into a teaching facility, into a facility that is working with Meharry, we've got now the ability to expand if they're willing to come to the table and say, hey, we want to partner with you. If we invested $2-3 million in a wing, an educational wing, would you be willing to do that? I think the county would be in an excellent place to say, hey, let's talk about that. And so the answer to that is not with this particular 15,000+ square foot facility, but the expansion absolutely makes that available if we want to exercise that option.
Right. And the, for lack of a better term, just on a real thumbnail perspective, the estimated revenue once this thing is up and running is about whatever it is, minus whatever the expenses are. What's the annual operating deficit for this, expected operating deficit, or is there one for the forensic center for the first 3 or 4 years?
Denise, would you like to answer that question? Are you through with me?
Maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
I'm trying to let them do this, Commissioner. They're doing a great job.
They are doing a great job.
As I mentioned, we're expending almost $1 million now on the autopsy side of things. We're also having to run our local medical examiner's office, which is a requirement. So we're looking at $1 million that we're spending on autopsy fees and transportation out of the county, plus about $500,000 if we were fully staffed and the local medical examiner. So you combine those two things, you're looking at about $1.5 million we're expending every year. That cost is going to go up because
so that would be savings.
We're not going to save the complete amount, obviously. We've got to staff this facility. Okay. About 80% of the operating cost is going to be on staff.
Okay, so
then we're looking at utility. I'm sorry?
The savings would be 1.5 minus
the operating cost of the staffing of the facility, the combining of those two services.
Okay, and what's that number?
Well, we're looking at about $500,000 in new hired staff, plus $500,000 for the operations of the medical examiners. So we combine that, so it's about $1 million. So then you're looking at utility costs and ancillary testings. So if you're looking at spending $1.5 million currently, and then we'd be spending about 1.1.
Okay, what I'm getting at is, what I'm trying to understand, okay, if we are, I guess we could expand the equation a little bit, and we could do it more in budget if you want. So right now, what's the current cost for autopsies is $1 million.
About $1 million.
Okay.
Projected for next year, yes.
Okay, $1 million, and that's the amount we would save. Okay, and the additional staff that would have to be hired is about $500,000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's $500,000. Okay, and that's 1.5, and the expenses, or the additional revenue we could expect to get on that same expense base, the revenue we would get on that expense base from other counties is how much? How many, do you have a projection of how many people are going to use this service from outside Rutherford County?
Better than I am.
Let me see if I can assist here to somewhat. We are projecting that only doing autopsies in Rutherford County will be cheaper than what we are currently spending for autopsies in Nashville and her office.
Do you have the formula for that?
Well, I think that's what she was just going through, that we're currently
right,
spending
but
$1 million.
I'm just trying to convert that to a formula.
So we are currently spending approximately $1 million doing autopsies and transportation.
Let me ask it a different
And we
way.
anticipate the new personnel would be around $500,000, so therefore you would have a savings there. There would be additional costs such as utilities and that kind of thing, so.
Okay, so is this going to result in additional cash or cost us cash in the first 3 years?
If we I think we're talking about two different things, I think, Commissioner Irvin. So if we only do.
I'm asking a really simple question.
Right.
Is it going to cost, I've broken it down to a really simple question. Is it going to cost us cash, or are we going to have to expend additional cash?
If we only do autopsies in Rutherford County, it will cost us less than what we are currently expending. If we
Are we going to make more money off of it? Are we going to make money off of it? Is that what you're saying?
If we expand this out to other counties, then any funds that they send us for the autopsies that we perform for them would be additional revenue.
Absolutely. Are we going to make money or lose money?
We're going to save.
I want to know, okay, if we take the savings into account, that counts as basically revenue, essentially. Okay? Are we going to make money or lose money? In other words, and the ultimate question is, are we going to subsidize this and for how long?
Okay, it's going to be cheaper for us going forward to operate and do our autopsy service and medical examiner services. So I don't like to think of it as making money. This is not a revenue-producing business, but it's going to cost us less every year than we are currently paying and will be paying in the future. So it's a cost savings, not a revenue. So it's going to save us several $100,000 a year from what we are currently paying now. We're going to have to pay for autopsy service, but this way we'll be paying our staff and keeping the money in the county. It's not going to be making a profit. It's just going to be saving some of that expense every year.
And does
so I don't want you to hold me to these numbers, but say we're paying 1.5 now, it's going to cost us 1.2. If we take on other counties, that's going to help us offset our operational costs. So it's going to maybe save us another 100,000. So we're going to be saving 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 a year from what we are currently spending now and will be paying in the future.
And does that, okay, we'll talk about this. Before the budget meeting, we'll connect and sort this out.
Okay.
I'm just trying to ascertain whether it's going to cost us in operating expenses or not. Okay?
Well, it's certainly not going to be free, but it's going to save us.
What's the incremental cost essentially on the budget side? Okay? And so does that calculation include the cost of money for the $15 million that Rutherford County would be kicking in? In other words, it probably costs, what, $1.5, $2 million to finance it, essentially, even though it's coming out of fund balance, and that's a whole other discussion. But I'm trying to assess, is the numbers y'all are giving us, does that include or not include the cost of money, basically, or the revenue we could earn through the finance? No, not that part. In other words, the financing cost is what I'm trying to get to.
Since we are not financing this, we are writing a check for it.
Right, but it's a cost of money. I mean, if we borrow it, it's going to cost us a penny, which is about $1.5 million. If we don't finance it, it comes out of fund balance, then we got to make money basically out of the, you were basically foregoing the penny, basically, or it's not costing us a penny. So I'm trying to figure out, how does that factor in? Have you factored in those costs?
Since we are not financing this, we were writing a check for it. We are not counting in any finance charges or fees, no. Thank you.
I would like to make one observation. You keep talking about these projections, what we're going to do the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years or whatever. But what is Nashville going to do in charging me for my autopsies over the next 3 or 4 years? We've heard they went up to $2,500. What is it going to be next year, year after? Can you give me those answers? The answers on what they're going to charge Rutherford County, what are we going to have to pay out over the next several years?
And that's an excellent question, because part of what I'm wondering now is, have we gone to Nashville and tried to renegotiate? Has anybody gone to Nashville and said, we'd like to renegotiate?
If they renegotiate, that's Commissioner.
Okay, I understand what you just said, but I'm asking, have we done it?
As much as I understand your passion and your career is financing, I think what we're forgetting is the precarious nature based on the study showing us there's a huge vulnerability there that is affecting the potential quality of our cases. We have got a situation where our law enforcement are not getting the information that they need in a timely manner, so that is a huge cost to their investigations. So renegotiating with them for $50 off an autopsy, to me, is not my priority. As much as I understand all of you have to be fiscally responsible for the budget, and I do too, but the fact of the matter is it's not just the pure cost of the autopsy, it's the cost to us as a county and our families and our law enforcement and to our medical examiner's office as to the quality of the cases and the quality of the communication we're getting now. That is my passion. So I don't want to renegotiate with a company or with a facility that's in a precarious nature that is dealing with 63 counties out of a 20,000 square foot building. So it's not, to me, just a cost issue. It's a cost way beyond just the dollar sign. With all due respect, I don't mean to, if I came across a little
I understand. I was trying to get the answer to a simple question, and I appreciate everything you just said, that there are other factors, and those other factors have to be taken into account as well. I agree completely. Okay, but what I'm trying, I was just trying to say, have we done it? I think the answer is no, and y'all aren't. Well, it doesn't sound like we're keen about doing that for a number of reasons.
They would be interested, they've indicated that if you watch Monday night, in locking us into a contract. Currently, per statute, we are allowed to go to any regional forensic center. Obviously, logistically wise is why we go to Nashville. So locking us into a contract would mean that we are unable to go to another county, to go to another regional forensic center if we wanted, and it would certainly stop the conversation we are having now and our ability to take care of our own cases, which is what we absolutely need to focus on. So it wouldn't drop the price, but they would just say for a couple of years they wouldn't increase it. My concern with that is it's just like a washing machine warranty. When that warranty runs out, they can increase it, and we're stuck, we've got nowhere to go, we haven't done our plan that we need to, and we haven't got our own forensic center, and we haven't had the ability to take a case to another regional forensic center, which I've done on occasion with the agreement of the mayor's office and our county medical examiner, because it was a complex case. We didn't feel that we would get an appropriate examination and report from the Nashville office. So we would be stilted from doing that. So it wouldn't save us any money, but the only promise they would give would be for a couple of years, they wouldn't increase it. But once that contract runs out, they could double it to make up the profit. So that's not a risk I think financially we should take, and certainly from a quality aspect, I am not willing to take. Thank you.
Chairman,
Any other questions? Commissioner Johnson?
I'd like to make a motion to send a favorable recommendation to budget in favor of the 6th Regional Forensic Center to be located on I Street in Smyrna, Tennessee.
Is there any more I understand the motion is a second. Or any more discussion before we accept that motion?
I couldn't hear the motion. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Phillips? Well, he started his motion, but it's not a second. He yielded to you. He yielded to you, so you got it. Can you talk up some of the
Sorry,
audience?
I didn't have my mic on.
Okay.
Commissioner Irvin is well prepared, and from his perspective, everything he asks is pertinent to the decision-making process. And regardless of how you vote, his vote is his conscience, and he's not wrong. So he's well prepared, and he's prepared to make a vote, I think, based upon the work that he's put in this and what he thinks is in the best interest of the county. I'm going to do the same thing. This forensic center is a vision for the future. It's not a decision that we're making just for right now, but it's a vision for the future that will last way beyond probably any of our lifetimes that are here. And the reason that that's important to me is because most of the decisions that the Rutherford County Commission has been making over the last 10, 12, maybe even the last 15 years is a vision for the future and not reacting to things that are of an immediate importance. The courthouse, the new judicial center that we built, is a prime example of that. We spent a little extra money simply to prepare for what we knew was coming in the future. We put in an additional floor. So we did those kind of things, and I think this is a vision for the future. Let me just say that there are those of us that have been working on this for at least 9 years, and I think it might be even closer to 10 years. And the need has been there for most of those 10 years, but the timing was not right. And the reason the timing was not right is because we'd have to go out and borrow the money. And I don't think any of us wanted to increase the debt service. Right now, the funds are available, and there'll never be a better time to do this than right now. That's my opinion. So from a timing perspective, I think the timing is right. And the reason that that is right, and I think, Eric, you mentioned it a minute ago, is that, let me get my glasses or I'll miss something. Goodness sake. Mayor Carr's office and staff, Finance Director Michael Smith and his staff, and the trustee Teb Beatty and his staff have worked really hard over the last few years in developing a rainy day fund or some funds that we could go out and expend without having to add to debt service. And to me, this is the perfect time for us to do this. And I want to thank those departments for what they put into it. I'd also like to thank Denise and Brian for all of your hard work and your faith in the process to keep working on this year after year. And I'd also like to thank the Sheriff's Office, too, for being so attentive to this, this whole project and what it might mean to the citizens of Rutherford County going forward. Saying all that, let me just kind of read this motion. And Anthony, I don't really mean to override what you were saying, but this motion, we worked on it a little bit today to make sure it was worded in the right way. I move to approve the construction of the presented forensic center on Weekly Lane in Smyrna, Tennessee, and to appropriate $15 million from unassigned fund balance to fund this project. That's my motion.
Yeah, motion, do I hear a second? Commissioner Johnson. Any other discussion on the motion? Commissioner Johnson?
This is actually on I Street instead of Weekly.
Okay,
Road, so.
all right. Make that correction, I Street.
I'll add that correction if you don't mind.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin, Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Chairman McAdoo.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Motion passed. Thank you. Next on the agenda, I'm going to ask PBA update. Gary, I see he's with us tonight. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, all. Some of you have heard some of this before when I presented a few months ago, but for those that weren't here, I'll go back through that. I'm also going to talk a little bit about a current project that the PBA has in front of them and how our projects last year, which are similar in the safety and health buildings, have turned out, and also some things that we've done and looked at through research of when the PBA was first started in 1996 and how it got to where it is today, and things that we as the PBA as a body feel we could be better utilized for the constituents here of Rutherford County. So first of all, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you, and thanks everybody for your service to our great county and our citizens here. I am Gary Wisniewski, the current chairman of the Rutherford County PBA. I've been a resident of Rutherford County since 1989. I'm proud to serve this commission and the citizens of this great growing county. The PBA today is a board of 7 residents who serve at the pleasure of the mayor and the commission as a sounding board and a manager for the construction of new buildings and construction projects. As of today, we have 6 members, and there are 2 new applicants in the mayor's office. Our members consist of Tucker Markham, Don Lester, who is our vice chair. Don is in the remodel business, has been for over 30 years. We added 2 months ago Mr. Bob Warren. Bob Warren is a structural and civil engineer here in Rutherford County that has worked on many of the county and city projects. Sean Holt, who's a retired large framing contractor, once again with 30 years of experience in building construction. Brad Fowler, a real estate professional here in Rutherford County, and myself with 36 years of experience in the development and general construction business here in Middle Tennessee. The research that we did showed that the PBA was started in 1996. The original purpose of the PBA, as stated in those bylaws, was to oversee, manage projects in the county and to construct, acquire, improve, repair, renovate, extend, equip, furnish, operate, demolish, and maintain these projects in Rutherford County. Additionally, we're tasked with the order of working on financing, such as borrowing funds to carry out the purpose with respect to these projects, execute notes, bonds, loans, and leases for these said projects. Currently, the PBA is reviewing plans for projects, interviewing, selecting, and vetting contractors, reviewing, signing contracts with the contractors, review and approve pay schedules for such projects, review all projects for change orders, oversee and manage a project schedule, on-site meetings to monitor the progress of those projects, and provide conversation with the mayor's office, with the commission, with this committee, with the contractors, the budget office, the engineers, and architects regarding each one of these projects when necessary. We also monitor all the punch list items before the project closes out and before it's handed over to Mr. Dodd and his department, because we believe that managing and monitoring these projects and handing them over to Mr. Dodd only to be a nightmare for him is not only unfavorable, and it's a cost to our constituents. We currently have just one project that we're managing. So just want to let you know, we're going to be really bored come October, so please find us some projects. The project we're managing right now is the Plainview Public Health and Safety Building. This project, according to the contractor and consultant from Klein Sweeney's office, is ahead of schedule by approximately 30 days. Of course, in construction, we hope to keep it on that schedule. We don't see any reason at all for it to be delayed, so it should finish on time. We also have nearly $500,000 in savings in the budget that'll be returned to the Commission. The reason for this is not only oversight by the PBA, but strict oversight by Klein Sweeney and also our contractor. A lot of the projects that we've done previously, well, let me finish the savings. In the previous health and safety projects in Rockvale, Kittrell, Lascassas, and Walter Hill, which are now all closed out, the PBA oversaw the return of over $1.6 million to the budget. So, understanding finance, Mr. Irvin, we're here to protect the pocketbook. Not only in returning those, but to make sure that these buildings are built correctly and repeatable, that we can keep driving costs down if we have that available. Last month, the PBA had a special meeting to discuss what else could we do to help the county in the process of managing these projects. We believe with the expertise and experience on our board, we could be instrumental in the following that would help to lower costs, design and build better and more cost-effective projects in the county. Some but not all services that we are not providing at this time could be aid in site selection. And as I go through these, I want to bring up a couple things that have happened on some of the projects in the past. On the site selection, sometimes it's more cost effective not to build on a piece of dirt we actually own, because the dirt's not suitable for what we want to do. That actually happened on the Plainview project, where it got moved because the dirt on that project was so unsuitable. We had similar concerns about the Plainview project, but with the oversight and given the contract and the contractor a quick go-ahead, we were able to grade the site and seal the site before the weather ever stepped in. That savings is about $180,000, could be as high as $250,000 by the time we're done, by not having to undercut 4 feet out of that dirt. Also, by undercutting that dirt, we would have then had to have a haul bill to remove that dirt, and a haul bill coming back in of shot rock or proper material that we could compact to hold these buildings in the parking lot up. So the oversight of the PBA, along with our contractor and our architect, we can devise not only from the get-go, but all the way through the project, a way to bring these projects in at a better cost savings to our constituents. We would also like to help, if we could, with selection of architects, engineers, input on the projects as they're being drawn in, let's say, kind of a design-build process. With the gentleman on board that we have now with Bob Warren, Bob's been a civil and a structural engineer for, my goodness, I don't know, 45, close to 50 years. Bob and I have worked together for over 37 years on various projects that we have done. With Bob's insight on soil examination, overseeing structural components, understand cost-effective building, we on the PBA believe we could be of better usage to the county, to the commission, and to the mayor's office to help provide a project that is engineered correctly on the front end, that everybody has every stakeholder has a voice in it. Perfect example is, we see in the construction world 2 things that will beat you up on your budget. 95% of the time either comes from plates down, meaning anything below that building. So the concrete, the stabilization of it, the undercutting, the soils, the utilities, And the other part that comes, which kicks our butt in budget, is change orders. So from watching how some of the projects have been done, we think it would be a benefit to have more, let's say it's stakeholder meetings. For instance, on a few of these buildings, in the middle of the project, there were change orders that were turned in where some of the folks using the buildings decided they would like a change. The difficulty in that is material was already bought for the project. So therefore, it wasn't only a change order for the new material, it was also a waste of product that was bought that we couldn't do anything with. So we believe that we'd like to offer our services to be a conduit for these stakeholder meetings to get the project correct before it ever starts, so we don't have change orders and we don't have overruns. We would also like to be part of the soil analysis and compaction input with our civil engineers, because as I said, that's where we've derived a lot of cost savings. And actually at the one-stop building that went grossly over budget was because of undercutting. So we weren't there to provide this. I don't know if we could have saved any money, but having seen these things come across the PBA's desk, I just think we could do a little better job at the PBA and be better utilized. So in closing, I'd like to thank everybody for this opportunity to talk with you today. I'm open up to any questions. And from serving on the PBA, which is a real privilege, and it's a real honor to work with everybody on that committee on these buildings. It's also been a privilege to work with Adam in order to make sure we're turning over to him and giving him the keys to something that's not going to be a maintenance nightmare or a cost nightmare for him and his group to maintain these buildings. We just think that we could provide a lot better service than we're providing now if you'd give us the opportunity.
Any questions? Commissioner Irvin?
Sure. Do you have any sense for the savings in the last 3 years?
The savings on these buildings?
Yeah, that the PBA has generated?
The savings on the 4 projects that are closed out, as I said, is 1.6 on the figures that I was given today.
Okay, and that's solely attributable to the PBA's efforts?
No.
So what part of it is the PBA?
The things I was directly involved in was probably close to $800,000.
Okay, so about $800,000 in savings over the last 3 years. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Does the PBA have a costs associated with it? Do you have a budget?
Since everybody works for free, the only cost we have to the PBA is our legal counsel. And when I looked at the legal counsel billings over 2024 on these projects, the legal cost is 0.04% of our budget, of the budget of these projects.
What's the dollar amount there? What's the dollar amount? 100,000, 200,000?
No. It's about $30,000.
About 30,000 in total for the last.
Yeah, we don't like our counselor that much. No.
Okay. 30,000 in total for the last year.
Yes, sir. Yeah, in 2024. That was responsible for managing not only these 5 projects, but also rewriting our general contract and our scope of work for our contractors.
Okay. Are you literally on the ground every day, or is someone from the PBA literally on the ground?
No, sir, absolutely not. So who is on the ground is the general contractor hired, also a representative every week from Klein Sweeney that report back to the PBA, and we do have stakeholder meetings once a month where everybody on the PBA and even the commission is invited to look at the progress, critique the project, et cetera.
So y'all touch the project once a month?
Minimum once a month.
Minimum once a month. How often would you say ordinarily?
Within a month's time, actually physically on the ground, 3 or 4 times, maybe more if there's a concern that we need to go look at. But with the correspondence with Klein Sweeney and their representatives, we are sent photos and not just reports of the progress on the job?
Do you have a conflict of interest policy?
In our conflict of interest
For
on the members?
For PBA?
Counselor? Yes?
It's the same as, or?
Murphy?
The clock's running, so make it short, Brett.
No, it's not running. So no, it tracks the county's policy, and yes, the answer is yes, absolutely.
Is it on the website or where?
I can provide it to you.
That'd be great.
Okay. So.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
My pleasure.
I'd like to make one statement. I've worked with PBA for several years, along with Commissioner Dodd, Commissioner Phillips, and Commissioner Johnson, and their expertise has saved Rutherford County a lot of money. And I'm thinking about one big project was the judicial building. They worked continuously on that project, and their expertise saved Rutherford County a lot of money. Now, if you would like, I could get budget for you, Commissioner Irvin. I could get budget department to look up the savings that we had on that one particular project. But as far as the safety buildings, they saved us a lot of money, and we've been able to move money around so we can get the maximum amount of building for our dollars. So PBA has done an excellent job with supporting the county. And I can state that personally from myself. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, Facilities Maintenance Report, Director Dodd.
Good evening, Commissioners. I will try to speed through this report tonight. Before I get into our normal report, I just want to touch on this in particular building located at the Rockville Community Center. During a recent site visit, I observed this dilapidated building beyond repair. The building presented a major risk and safety concern for the public. The roof, the rafters were falling in. There were brackets and heavy cables that were bracing bowing walls together. The septic tank was in need of repair, and it also was posing a safety and an environmental hazard. After consulting with the mayor's office on my findings, the county attorney, and members of the Ruritan Club, which leases this from the county, we are the landlord, all parties agreed that removing this old building was in the best interest of the county. I'll be happy to answer any questions. If not, I will move on to our normal report.
And we did remove the building.
The project should be finished tomorrow. Commissioners, I'll move on to our normal report, starting with the recovery court. The OAC meeting was held on Friday the 21st on site with the architect and the general contractor. 3 RFPs were discussed. We have asked the GC to upgrade the adjoining entrance door to match the new entrance door on the addition. Additionally, we have asked to upgrade the hardware to a commercial hardware for added security. and replace approximately 12 to 15 foot of rim joist that we have found to have taken in some significant water damage over the years. So those are the only open RFPs that we have right now. We are awaiting some pricing for some minor civil changes to the landscape drawing. That was a request by the city of Murfreesboro. Continuing on with the progress, the site and the grading work remain at approximately 50% complete. Exterior stud wall framing is complete. Sheathing is at 90%. Trusses are at 90%. Tyvek wrap on exterior walls is now complete. Our 4 weeks look ahead, all framing, sheathing, and decking to be completed. Within the next 2 weeks, the contractor should start the complete roof tear-off and replacement. That's the entire building. Will be a tear-off. Any damage of existing decking is to be removed, replaced with new decking, and replaced, and go back with a 30-year architectural grade shingle. The project completion date, Phase 1, continues to remain for May of 2025, and that completes this month's report on the Recovery Court addition.
Any questions on Recovery Court?
Yes, Chairman.
Commissioner Dodd?
This may be off topic, just stop me if it is, but driving through there, looking at the site this weekend, I just noticed there's no signage, no monuments. Is it a matter of its anonymity is required for Recovery Court or security reasons? There's no labeling of what the building is and what it serves. I didn't know if are you aware of any security or?
I'm not. Can I follow up with you?
Absolutely. I didn't mean to put anybody on the spot, but that was just thought if this could be an opportunity to maybe get a monument up or labels, if that's appropriate.
Absolutely.
Table that for later.
No, absolutely.
Any other questions? Continue.
Commissioners, we'll move on to our Plainview Public Health and Safety Building. Site work is progressing. Now it's approximately 70% complete. CMU block work is now complete. The water and damp proofing complete. In-wall plumbing and electrical rough-in are ongoing. Heavy and light gauge stud walls ongoing at 70%. Truss work is now ongoing. As you can see from the pictures, the building is starting to take shape. Exterior stone veneer is now complete. Heavy timbers and columns complete. Our 4 weeks look ahead. Final MPE rough-in inspections to follow. Complete steel truss work. Installation, we should start to see them installing some roof decking. Milton Lease Electric should be out to set the primary service pole. There are a handful of open submittals currently awaiting approval. They're minor, not structurally related, and they do not affect the construction schedule. This project remains on time. The contingency has not been touched at this time, and the completion date remains estimated for the first week of October 2025. And that will complete this month's report on the public health, Plainview Public Health and Safety Building.
Any questions?
So, Mr. Wagner was unable to attend tonight's meeting, so I'm going to do the best I can to fill in for him and give you a thorough update. Drive-in lane on your left, transfer station on your right. That's the same site picture that you guys have seen the last 2 or 3 months. So the drive is poured approximately 7/8 around the site. The pond is in and dressed. MTE now has power to site. I think they're looking to energize within the next week or two. The windows installed, painted, ready for finishing work. The scale house, they're starting to put the skins on the scale house. And that's the end of that slide, but our OAC took place today, so I'll give a few more updates. The directional bores for water and sewer are complete now. Tie-in is remaining. Concrete paving, as you can see, is ongoing. The site concrete, they anticipate finalizing that within the next 2 weeks, and water and sewer connections by the end of March. The contractor he's currently targeting April for his certificate of occupancy, and that completes this month's report for the transfer station.
Any questions?
Adam, is there any update on the roads?
The roads, I don't have a good update on the road part of it, just the building.
Yeah, Chairman Phillips, I drove out this weekend, and Roadworks is doing a full-depth reclamation, and they were probably 50% from the back of the current convenience center. They were probably a third of the way up to our double gates. It looked like they'd already done the reclamation. They were building shoulders on the next third, so they're making some good progress. Very impressive.
Okay. Any other questions? Not, I entertain a motion to receive the report from Director Dodd. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Adam, before you leave, could you just make one quick comment on the PBA and your relationship with the PBA?
Yes. Over the past couple months, we've discussed the PBA and our interaction and how this committee and that committee interact. And I'll basically tell you the same thing I've told you in the past. I've worked with the PBA on several projects in recent years. As Gary previously stated, we've touched on the additional oversight and what they provide to each project. The vetting, the interviewing, architects, general contractors, the hiring process, review drawings, change orders, pay applications, etc. The projects that we've worked on together have been they've been effective. Some projects are unique. It requires specialized services. Historically, buildings, the building process has gone through the PBA, and that's what I'm familiar with. The PBA is a resource that the county can utilize as they see necessary. Now, there are some small projects that this committee and the mayor's office will have to make a decision. I think each project is unique. There'll be some small projects like renovations, additions, and building improvements that we make along the way that might not, we might not need to go in the direction of the PBA, but there'll be other projects where that additional oversight will be needed. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Director Dodd. Commissioner Johnson, you have any other business?
Yes, I guess we'd Can you hear me?
I don't
I'm on my second mic, and I can't hear myself.
It's very weak. They can't hear. Why don't you try the mic behind you? See if it's working the better.
I'm sorry.
Nope, not hearing anything on it. Commissioner Dodd, you got a good mic?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
4 mics. The mayor assured me they're going to be looking into changing out some mics here pretty quick. I was looking over past minutes, and in the December minutes, property management minutes, Commissioner Phillips requested a vision for Rutherford County solid waste and the transfer station from Director Wagner and Mayor Carr to be presented to Public Works and the commission in the spring of 2025. So April will be spring. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention that will be on the April agenda for Public Works pursuant to this motion that we unanimously passed. And that was in December. That's all I have.
And that's a plan from the mayor's office? Or?
Yes, requested a vision for Rutherford County solid waste and the transfer station to be presented in the spring. And I'll reach out tomorrow to the mayor.
Okay.
I was hoping he was going to stay around, but this is not to put anybody on the spot or anything. It's just something that we did, and going back through the minutes, I found it today, so it will be on the agenda in April.
Okay, it sounds good. Any other business to bring forth to property management tonight? Motion to adjourn. Thank you.